Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Look, if you've ever felt like you're just putting in endless amounts of hard work, doing everything right, checking all the boxes, but still seeing, well, absolutely zero results, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're exploring a really powerful, beautifully simple narrative that completely uncovers the hidden truth behind personal struggles, self-doubt, and delayed success. We are going to completely reframe how you look at the waiting periods in your life. Okay, let's dive into this. Why does everyone else seem to be moving faster than you? It's something almost all of us have felt, right? You look to your left, you look to your right, and literally everyone else seems to be hitting their milestones. They're getting the promotions, they're building the business, they're seeing the progress, and you are just stuck. It is the absolute perfect recipe for imposter syndrome and that deeply painful trap of comparing yourself to your peers. But to understand why this feeling is actually a massive illusion, we really need to look at a brilliant little story about a farmer named Thomas and his two sons.
So meet Jack and Ben. Both boys are 14 years old, and they both love helping their dad out in the fields. One sunny morning, Farmer Thomas gives each of his boys a tiny, mysterious seed. He doesn't even tell them what kind of plant it's going to become. He simply gives them identical resources, identical plots of dirt, and one very simple instruction. Plant it, take care of it, and let's see what happens. Think of it kind of like two friends starting the exact same fitness routine on the same day, or maybe launching identical startups. The baseline is exactly the same for both of them. They both dig the soil, they both plant their seed, and they both begin to carefully water them.
But this is where the paths violently diverge, and we enter what we could call the trough of sorrow. Let's walk through this timeline together. Week 1 goes by in an absolute flash. Jack is already getting impatient, literally digging around in the dirt to see if his seed is broken. Week 2 passes, and Jack's frustration boils over. He actually tells his dad he thinks the seed is completely dead. Then comes week 3. A tiny, miraculous little green sprout emerges, but only from Ben's soil. Ben is overjoyed. By the time 1 full month passes, Ben's plant is knee-high. It's got thick stems, vibrant leaves, the whole shebang. And Jack? Jack's plot is just completely empty. He is totally defeated, watering a patch of dirt, completely convinced he's a failure. Why isn't mine growing? Jack whispers this when he looks over at Ben's thriving plant. Let's just pause right here for a second. Think about a moment in your own life where you've whispered that exact same question to yourself. You're putting in the hours, you're doing the daily habits, you're sending out hundreds of resumes, you're showing up every single morning, just like Jack did with his watering can, and you have absolutely nothing to show for it. It's devastating. It is so incredibly hard to maintain your belief when someone right next to you is visibly thriving while your plot of land just looks barren. But Jack's father simply tells him, "Keep watering it, son. Don't give up." Now, what's really interesting about this is a vital concept I like to call underground work. You see, Jack assumed that just because there was no visible growth above the surface, absolutely nothing was happening. But a lack of visible progress does not equal a lack of growth. Underground work represents all those unseen foundational habits, the profound resilience you're building, and the deep skills you're acquiring during those periods of struggle. Jack's seed was actually incredibly busy. It was expending all of its energy aggressively pushing roots down into the dark, preparing a massive foundation. It took 2 full months, 60 days of waking up, walking out to the garden, and staring at absolutely nothing, which, let's be honest, in today's Amazon Prime instant delivery world, feels like an absolute eternity. But then one morning, out of pure habit, Jack goes to his plot and sees it. A tiny green shoot has finally broken through the soil. 2 months of hidden, agonizing underground work had finally breached the surface. He literally yells for his father and brother. It's this absolute moment of triumph because his invisible effort finally became visible. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate payoff of that waiting period. Once Jack's plant broke the surface, something truly extraordinary happened. Over the next 3 weeks, Jack's plant grew so rapidly that it caught up to Ben's plant entirely, and it just kept going. It grew taller, its stem grew thicker, its leaves grew broader. Why? Well, because as Farmer Thomas finally reveals, Ben was growing a modest, delicate apple tree. But Jack? Jack had been given a mango seed, a tree that in the real world can grow up to 100 feet tall and live for over 300 years. It was building a massive foundation for massive growth. The boys just stand there staring in wonder, and Farmer Thomas sits them down on the grass to explain the hidden wisdom of the seeds.
He distills the entire experience into 3 really powerful mindsets: stop comparing, trust the roots, and stay consistent. Let's break these down one by one, because they completely change the narrative around success and self-doubt.
Let's start with the first lesson. You are growing a different tree. Jack only felt like a failure because he was applying an apple tree timeline to a mango tree journey. Make it make sense, right? When he saw Ben's plant growing and his wasn't, he just assumed he was losing. But they were simply on entirely different paths. Think about it. If your goals, your ambitions, and your unique life path are completely different from your peers, why on earth would your timeline for success look identical to theirs? You've got to stop comparing your soil to someone else's harvest. Which brings us to the second incredibly powerful lesson from Farmer Thomas. Success often happens where you can't see it yet. Actually, scratch that. It almost always happens where you can't see it. A massive mango tree requires a vastly deeper root system than a smaller apple tree. If the mango tree tried to sprout in week 3 without that deep foundation, it would literally just topple over under its own weight. Great things take immense patience. You have to trust that the deep roots you're building right now in the dark, your education, your failed business attempts, your quiet practice, those late night studying, are strictly necessary to support the massive growth that's coming your way.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this third lesson. Stay consistent and do not let your underground work go to waste. Think about this for a second. Jack actually started watering his plot less frequently when he felt defeated. He almost threw in the towel, but he kept watering it just enough. That quiet, completely unglamorous consistency when he was deeply discouraged is literally the only reason his plant survived. If Jack had fully stopped watering that dirt in week 6, all of that incredible root building happening below the surface would have just died. You have to keep watering your soil for sure, even when the dirt looks totally empty. As Farmer Thomas concludes his lesson with his boys, he leaves them with one final, resounding piece of wisdom. Never compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. Just let that sink in for a moment. You have no idea how long someone else's seed has been in the ground. You have no idea what season they're in. You only see their visible growth, not the months or years of underground work it took to get there. Which leaves us with this final question to consider today. What kind of roots are you growing right now? Are you in a season of quiet underground work? Because if you are, I really want to challenge you to completely trust your process. Do not panic just because you haven't broken the surface yet. Keep working, stay patient, and keep watering your seed. Your time is absolutely going to come, and when it does, the foundation you're building right now is going to allow you to reach heights you never thought possible. Thank you so much for exploring this story with me on This Explainer. Keep growing, and I'll catch you next time.